let's talk about controls and BMS or BAS if you're American. I personally will not do functional performance testing unless that BAS head end is up and the graphic is there and it's working properly. Now, this doesn't happen that often for me, despite my insistence. What's your experience with that?
Okay. So yeah, actually having a complete full graphics that actually is ready by substantial completion. Yeah, that's like basically ordering a one of those new electric trucks that might be here in a year or two. So I actually haven't, to be honest with you, like it doesn't happen that often. I've taken on a couple more projects in the last year or so that, like I said on other sessions, that we're starting this early. I'm actually trying to do everything possible to actually have commissioning done by substantial completion on this one project. And we're going to see what happens, but it has been starting everything out early, push, right? I'm sure I've just maddened people, but for the most part, we'll see what happens in that one. But on other ones, we're still trying to do the same thing, but it's funny. We're never trying to delay anything, but it's just like graphics, just like approved submittals. Like they're in the specs. They'll say, we want a front page with this. We want basically a ribbon for this. We want a screenshot for this. We want static shots of the equipment. But I mean, I want virtual shots. You know, I also want to see like, let me see the plan view of something. Sometimes they try to make it pretty into axons and stuff like that. I'm honestly, I'm like, sometimes graphics try to make it too pretty, right? To the point where let's just make it operational ready, you know, so also understanding. So when you do click on something like, so in the industry right now, we have these things called a single pane of glass. Okay. Everybody in, you know, the IoT world and other graphics know this. That means we're trying to basically have BAS, mechanical. We could have basically lighting. We could have IT, AV. We could have all this other stuff overlaid. Okay. Yeah. So I always call it like a triple pane of glass. We're going to smush it. We're not there totally yet, but we're trying to, okay? But the whole point about it is getting all this so it looks similar. So when you, my whole thing is too, is like when alarm gets turned over, when a graphics get turned over and we have our alarms, I like to see another screen that has escalations. I like to basically see when the alarm came in, you know, when we timed it, when it starts, when the clock goes, when it got finished, who basically shut it off, who basically disenunciated it, like, you know, like you turn it off, but who did? All these things are accountable, right? Because controls are literally the most important thing of a building. Without them, you cannot run air or water or cooling or heating or energy or anything. I hate to say this, but that's the world we live in, everybody. So wake up and become better, okay? So standard 135, basically guideline 13, BACnet, Project Haystack. I mean, controls, everybody get into controls. It's the future. Learn this stuff. Division 25, learn it, right? But the thing is you as a commissioning person have to know this stuff, and you have to know and you have to see where people are, because they're going to say, oh, we're going to start this. You know what? Pre-program the controllers, pre-program the JACEs, right? See what they can do before they get there. Get on site, test them. They're like, we don't have power. You can ping them.
You're talking about bench testing and doing all that work up front before you get there properly, right?
It's low voltage, for God's sakes. Also, too, another thing, when you're in the field, this is not just graphics. When you're in the field, though, find out where your e-power is. Find out basically what is attached to basically that controller. Yeah. Find out that if this one goes down, does that go down? If you lose this, do you lose comm? Is it basically last setting? Is it default? You know what I mean? Like, you got to understand how switches and controllers and transducers work, right? And it's just like, you got to be, I'm sorry, but as a commissioning person, you need to take the time to understand controls, you know, not as a complete professional controls contractor, but take the classes, you know, get on, you know, SBA, you know, get on, it used to be BAM, you know, there's so many, right now, there's so many classes that you can get online right now that are free. And I teach my students free classes online. I just go online. I'm like, BAS 101, graphics 101, boop, get on a 10-minute conversation, play it. They're free. Learn them.
So let's talk about this, right? So I like your analogy about an electric car. You would never buy an electric car and then you're in there, they say, here's the car, that display, we'll work on that over the next 12 months. You wouldn't try that out, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't get on there and say, so what about my autonomous driver? You know what? You can click it on. We just don't know if it's going to work, but it's in the background.
But that happens a lot. There's a lot of jobs that get handed over with functional systems, but none of the like BAS really done properly and the graphics will work.
The most important ones are basically, so the BAS can basically monitoring, we're going to have K factors, we're going to basically have discharge error, we're going to have minimums, maximums, right? And you're going to be able to see all this on the front end, and especially when you're doing balancing, when you're doing tab, and you actually don't see all these things, so tab's going to go out there with tab can do their job. They're great. They're amazing people, but they need to have controls folks to make sure that they're all working and that it's actually showing it. So whenever I say someone, so you tabbed without actually having the controls programmed and done. Yeah. How'd you do that?
Yeah.
So, or like, so where's the alarms? Where's the AHJ? So how do you do the interlock? Did you see it? Where's the number that you can prove to me that you actually hit that mark? No, I'm like, nope.
Let's talk about what the BAS contractor has to do. They have to install their equipment, power it up, do point-to-point testing, and then get the graphics installed and have those.
Don't forget install the wiring part.
Yeah,
uberly important for how it's wired, where it's wired.
Correct. And then that graphic being working means this: from device in the field to the graphic tested. Right?
Point to point.
Yeah, that's why it's called point-to-point.
That's why it's called point-to-point.
Yeah, whenever I see a graphic, a really well done graphic with a spinning wheel, I get all suspicious because I think they're trying to distract me. So I start clicking on things. And
I like it when there's a spinning wheel, because then I'm like, oh, it's actually communicating. But I also want to verify that when I hit off and that spinning wheel stops. But you also want to make sure that, like, you know, when you turn an air handling unit off and basically the outside air damper closes, even though it's on a spring loaded because it's, you know, it's on a contactor. I want to go, do you see the feedback? No feedback. Okay, I don't see it closing. You actually, people have got to be out there verifying everything.
Very good point. So listen, this is a two-person job. When you're
at minimum,
someone's at the BMS and someone's in the field, and you're going,
yes.
Did that damper open, yes or no?
Correct.
Again, this is manpower. This is like time and money. And so the pushback from BAS contractors is, well, they never give us enough time. So I have a solution for that. My recommendation is you put something in the small print in your order that says, if you do not give me, I don't know, 2 months to set this up and commission it, no warranty.
Okay, well, to that point too, so you're just talking about the warranty word, right? So when you're out there with the BAS person, your controls person, and you're actually, let's say, commissioning, like, and you're actually testing a piece of equipment that's a unitary piece, like, and let's say it's Alliance, Mammoth, Petra, Train, York. I'm throwing them all. There's gonna be a million of them, right? You better damn well have one of those technicians out there with you, because if you're truly going through it and you're testing all your different circuits on your compressors, and you're basically you're failing things with all your different relays, because you should be testing to make sure that all. And remember, I'm going deep here, but general alarms. Whenever someone's like, "I got a general alarm for what on my chiller," what's wrong? I don't know. It's a general alarm.
So we're talking here about the integration of a specialist, say, for an example, chiller package with the BAS.
Yes, but remember though, so inside of every unit there is a huge points list, right? There, I'm talking 1,000 probably, right? For everything in there. Like, you're not going to pull every one of them. The problem is though, is you're going to have an owner, an engineer that's going to agree on what they want to monitor, what they want to alarm, what they think they need to do. And I'm telling you right now, like, if you keep on getting like these general alarms, you might have low suction, you might have this, you might have low temperature, but internally the chiller or an air handling unit is like throwing these faults and alarms, and you're over here going, what are they? That's when I bring this up all the time. Like, how much do you really want to know? Right? Because they're like, well, if not, you're going to be calling the warranty calls every time, and you're going to be calling a tech every time, and you got to pay for that. And most of the time, they're not local sometimes. They're going to take a day or two or a week. That unit might be down, and you won't be able to get that. People are like, no, wait. How did I just buy a $4 million condo and I can't get my water source heat pump to actually work really well because the chiller and the air and the cooling tower and the exchanger are not working? You're not going to explain someone to that. They're going to fix it.
Yeah. I like to try and agree what the consequential alarms are during commissioning, and then silence all the non-consequential, right?
Well, you just said the naughty word to silence.
Yeah.
So remember, be careful about that because
Yeah.
like you'll have an operator that'll be like beep 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 beep, and then they'll all go off. And sometimes they might clear them. They won't do this. I mean, for me when I'm doing monitoring based commissioning or fault detection diagnostics, I want to see the trends. I
Yeah.
want to know exactly what's going on. Remember though, if you don't have the point set up, you're not going to be trending the point. Okay, so it's like if you have a general alarm, you're going to get a general alarm, and you don't know what's going to go off. And I'm telling everybody on the call, if you don't know what I'm talking about, learn it, right? But at the exact same time, these are very expensive pieces of equipment that we're actually making work. Okay, and I mean, it is like driving a Ferrari out there sometimes. And especially if you work on laboratory and S&T, it's serious as a heart attack. Those rooms go down and you lose your RH, your relative humidity, your temperature, your particulates, and other air changes. I mean, you've lost money, and we can't have that happen.
Yeah, so just to put a bow on this, let's tie this back to functional performance testing. What Marcus is talking about here is fundamental to functional performance testing. Having the BAS set up operational all the way from device to head end is key to getting functional performance testing and IST done. And if that's mission critical facility, that's key with a cherry on top. Right?
Here's how everybody can understand it. If you're driving your car right now and your speedometer goes out, you don't know. If your oil gauge goes out, you don't know. But someone's like, just keep driving.
Yeah.
If it blows up, but you have to be able to see it. Call me, right? But those are the gauges. So those old gauges, those are controls.
Yeah.
Of what new digital is, but they used to be gauges. Now they're digital, but that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Let's leave it there. That was a good one.